Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome to This Is a Revolution, your weekly RevPro podcast. Here, as always, I am Cromulent George, and I'm joined by a different face this week. Not the Mark that you're all used to, although it does say Dave the Mark on the screen, and I realise I've not actually updated that, so the stand-in for Dave the Mark, my good friend Spike. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, my friend. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. It's bloody sweltering this evening, and I've got like a little fan on next to me. I can see you're out in the garden, so hopefully you're nice and cool. But I've got like the little box room that we've converted into an office. So I've got this big window which has got like this curtain draped over it, so it's nice and dark and cool in here.
Good, I'm glad. As you can, my arm looks a bit weird. It's because I'm currently rocking my 10-month-old baby.
Well, there we go. We're getting them in young, and we could potentially have her on as a guest. Get to start speaking. I'm sure she's got some wonderful insight into RevPro, hasn't she?
Well, that will be the eventual plan. Pro hire Michael Oku.
Yeah, exactly. So how have you been up to much during the week? Anything else that's been going on with you?
Just been working, really. Been really busy this week because the weather dipped and went hot again. We had a flood of people come through. Apart from that, I managed to watch a little bit of Sizzler yesterday.
Yeah,
but
nice.
Andy's not put up yet, so can't watch it all.
Yeah, exactly.
How about you?
Come on, Quilders. Yeah. It's been a good week, mate. Work was just busy this week, and I've been in different days to what I normally go into the office, so kind of just confused the hell out of me. And so it felt like a long week because I like to do like days where I'm at home one day, office the next day, but I did 3 days at home last week in a row, and that just messes with my head after a while. I like being around people, even if I'm just sitting in the office and not actually speaking to anyone. Just being around people's nice. So it's been good. And then obviously,
it does make a difference when you just have people around you. I work on my own at the moment in the kitchen, but sometimes I have some people come in.
Yeah,
it makes such a difference just to have a bit of social interaction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky I've got a job I enjoy, but I've always said that unless I'm doing my legit dream job, like where then I will just squirrel myself from any kind of social interaction if it was my dream job. But other than that, like I like to just be around people, feed off energy a little bit, and which is quite nice doing this evening. And obviously you are standing in for our good friend David, who is taking some well-deserved time away and actually going on holiday. And I was going to say probably ignoring everything, but knowing Dave, he's probably still got the G1 on or something like that, or snuck on a bit of Summer Sizzler live yesterday.
Yeah, I can imagine he's trying to fit in some wrestling, but I hope he hasn't. I hope he's taken a week and just chilled out, and he deserves it. He works so hard for his normal job and for all the other stuff.
Yeah. Right, people, that would be the last you'll hear of us speaking nicely about Dave in his absence. But no, for those of you who didn't watch last week, and if you're one of those people, why not? Spike, our friend here, has jumped on board with us to fill in for Mr. Mark. And we had a good chat last week, the three of us, the three-man booth, and had a lot of fun. Some good reception to that episode as well, so I don't think Spike's scaring the people off, which is always nice. Give it time, we say, you hit the nail on the head earlier about what you've been doing, watching a bit of Summer Sizzler. I was there yesterday as well, and have to say, you're cool. Have you been before?
I've not been, but I've heard that it was sweltering.
Yeah, so the venue was much smaller than I expected it to be, because when I watched it on RevPro on Demand, the venue looks like when you look at it and you see where the ring is, and when you see where Andy Quildan's commentary table is, that looks like it's miles away from the ring. And then like other angles that I've seen before, it looks like really far out, really spaced out, and it's not. It's quite compact actually. It's obviously a big place compared to the likes of Southampton, stuff like that, but really I was expecting it to be a bit bigger in there. But it was nicely packed together. Very warm in there yesterday. The door staff are something to be desired. We'll just say that. very hit and miss about what they were allowing people to go in with yesterday, and they don't like you taking a little bottle of aftershave in, which luckily I sprayed a bit before I went in, so that the sweltering heat didn't mean I was that smelly wrestling fan. Because you're right, it was sweltering in there. I mean, to be fair, it was really warm outside. When we first went in, it felt like it was a little bit cooler in there. And just as the night gone on, it got quite bad. But we luckily got in there early enough to avoid Barmageddon. The queue for the bar was just as bad as what I've been told. You go in there and it was just... So it's like this little room which has got 2 bars in, but at this point it only had 1 bar open. And everyone was just queuing all the way down the end through this door. And then there was another queue forming on the other side. But we got in there early enough. Very just like take it easy kind of bar staff. Like just took forever to pour like 2 pints for this person in front of me. It was just like, so I think that's probably part of it. But yeah, when we were watching, luckily we went back to the bar later on in the evening. Around about the Luke Jacobs match, which I think was semi-main, and it wasn't too busy then. And what saved me there was a lovely little run-in just before the match started to have a bit of a brawl, which we'll cover in a bit. But that all happened just after Luke Jacobs' entrance, which meant my entire time at the bar that I was waiting, that covered that, so I missed none of the match whatsoever. But no, really nice venue, and we were sat on the sort of, if you're looking at it, the left-hand side in the middle, but looking at where the seats on the balcony are, they're pretty much in line. Like, so they're not far back, they're about the same sort of space. So I think what they normally charge like 30 quid for a seat up on the balcony. And yeah, if you got one of those, you'd be laughing. Like it'd be quite nice up there, I reckon. So just not when it's sweltering heat.
Yeah, the balcony looked quite cool, to be fair. I've seen shows from local online, but I actually had a look at the venue yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I was quite interested in how busy it was. And the balcony does look quite nice.
Yeah, it was a nice area, because I've been eyeing it up the last couple of times I've watched it on stream, because there was a couple of shows where I was like, oh, I don't know if I really can like justify the price of the ticket. And I thought, well, if I can get a balcony seat, because it's first come, first served on the balcony. So you can get a balcony seat, get there early enough. And I think it was 30 quid, I think, on the balcony, something like that.
Yeah, it's quite cheap comparatively to the other
which
one.
That's good going. So I think like if there's a show, like I think for me, something like a Fantastica Mania, where I'm like, I'd be interested in going for a couple of matches, but I'm like not massively into it. That would probably be a really good one to go there for. But no, it was really cool. And yeah, looking forward to going back there again. But we will run down the card, and I know that, like you alluded to, that it's not up yet. Now, I think part of that may be because I could be wrong, but when I was watching, it looked like they had a different crew recording, and I did wonder, with it being such a big show with MJF being involved, and also the opening match, I did wonder if maybe they got a professional crew in to actually to crew it, to record it. I think it's Mark Ashley Films. He sometimes, I think he's for a couple of events. The last York Hall show, I think he did the same. So I don't know if that might be part of the delay or not. But the event, yesterday kicked off with Gideon Gray and Dan McGee. And look, when Andy Quildan came out and he was coming down with Francesca, I was like, oh, I wonder why it did not click for me in the slightest at that point, why he was coming down. I just thought, is this some kind of big announcement here? Like, it's a big event. And all I can say on that one is the emotion just absolutely overtook me. When I was younger, I had a friend who he died unexpectedly, and it brought up a lot being in there and actually being as close as I was and seeing Zoe Lucas doing that walk down and getting in the ring. It was heartbreaking shit. It really was. And you could very much see it on the faces of Gideon and Dan as they got in the ring. But I feel that crowd, we made noise. we made a lot of noise in there, and those guys got through it.
It was emotional on the stream as well, because I clicked on and I just saw the 10 bell salute by the time I clicked on. And I was like, well, I completely forgot when we were talking about it last week that 10 bell salute was like a tradition.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, that got me, to be fair. As soon as I heard those bells, I was a bit emotional. And then when Gideon come out and you could just see it, that this meant more to him than I think he even realised when he came out.
Yeah.
He'd done that promo, he did everything. But it wasn't until he came out that you can really see that he was like, yeah, this is the most important match of my life.
Yeah.
And all the touches, all the gear, all the moves, even the little shadow cut, everything was just perfect. It was I don't know really how to put it into words, but it was the tribute that it needed to be for the year we've had as far as the guys we've lost.
Yeah.
It was lovely. It was perfection.
Yeah.
I'd say it didn't need a winner, to be fair. Whoever won would have been.
Yeah.
Everyone would have been happy. It was just such a nice thing to do for everyone.
Yeah.
Especially for those boys who were his best friends, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say that. There's no negative you can say about it, to be honest.
No, I'm with you. Yeah. Right from the videos that they started showing on the screen and having people just talk and share the memories, and like you said, shout outs to moves, the Mad Kurt stuff in there as well. And I think, yeah, then obviously Zoe came and laid down his jacket, laid down the belt. The guys coming out wearing the gear, but then also all of the guys and Zoe just standing watching on the stage. Like, I think I watched some of it in the ring, but I was also just watching those guys on the stage because like it was so different to kind of what you usually get in a normal wrestling match, right? It's just everything was so different, and it was great because it kind of like it started to devolve into like almost like Gideon was doing his little tricks and stuff, and it played nicely that like you always see it like in a babyface versus babyface match because that's essentially what this was, right? Given what it was, and I'm not gonna sit here and analyze the match as such, but like when you see a match like that, normally, usually tensions start to happen, and that happened here, but they did it in such a good way that added a bit of levity to things, and I think they needed that. It was cathartic, it was what it needed to be, and at the end when they all just stood with their fists in the air, James's music playing. I just think it was such an amazing tribute and so well done.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. And you know what? I think the next match is the perfect match to have put on after that. And it was Leon Slater versus Jack Cartwheel, right? Because you've taken people on an emotional roller coaster. And obviously there's a lot of matches on this card, 8 in total. You're gonna want to take people on emotional journeys, but everyone was spent after that. They're absolutely spent. And you called it last week, actually. You said, Dave called this one actually. Said put it on first, get it out of the way with, and then I think your suggestion was put on just before the interval. But actually, this show didn't have an interval in the end, and I knew so that was actually different to like some shows I've been to. I think it was 2 days before someone posted, I think it was on the Friday, someone posted and said, is there going to be an interval on this show? And Andy said, not sure yet, we'll decide on the day. So we got to match 4, and then match 5 started, and we're like, oh, well, there's no interval then. Which meant we powered through the show. And yeah, so the next match after that, Leon Slater versus Jack Cartwheel, it was just what it needed to be. It was high-flying nonsense, and I mean that in the best way possible, right? It was silly, it was good, it was stuff that just like put you in awe. And I think last time when we were speaking, I said I think I've seen Jack Cartwheel before at Progress, wasn't sure what to expect this time. Well, actually, I realised that I did what I did last time, and I got confused. The last time it was Jack Bandicoot I saw at Progress, and I got him confused thinking he was Jack Cartwheel. And then I've realised I thought Jack Cartwheel was Jack Bandicoot. So I'm just getting my Jacks confused. Shout out to Jack of the 1865. Don't worry, mate. I'm not going to get you confused with these guys. You're okay
He's
there.
not going to be doing a cartwheel. You're all right.
So yeah, it was just fun. Like it was Jack Cartwheel lived up to his names. There was cartwheels everywhere. There was a really fun spot where Jack did a cartwheel. It was almost like a cartwheel off. So then Leon Slater did a cartwheel, and I couldn't work out what the chant was at first until it happened, but everyone just started chanting "Hatch, Hatch, Hatch," and Chris Hatch did his take on a cartwheel. Do you ever remember? I think it was Vince back in the day did like a spinneroonie, like it was a really
spinneroonie. Yeah.
It was kind of like that, and Chris did a really bad cartwheel, but it was great. Like again, it was levity after what we've been through before. Jack Cartwheel I liked a lot actually. He did some quite unique stuff. Leon is just looking bigger. Like I know he's been putting a lot of work in. I've kind of seen it on Instagram and stuff that he's been going to a trainer and they've been showing progress pictures, and the guy is in the best shape I've ever seen him in, and he's not losing any kind of motion or anything with that. Did that wonderful run and flip over the turnbuckle out into just out in front of the crowd, and yeah, he won unsurprisingly, and that puts him through to the copper box for the Cruiserweight Scramble. So I think we've got one spot lined up for that now, still left to fill. So what are you thinking on that? Because I think a lot of us probably thought that would be all kind of sorted by now, and unless another name comes out of nowhere, because I know ELP was announced for it with no qualifier. So do you think we see another scenario happening like that, or do you think we get a qualifier at Southampton?
But you could get a qualifier at Southampton, or just someone do a promo at Southampton. Obviously, we don't know the card yet, so there could be already a name wrestling on that card that makes sense. But you might just get, rather, like Orange Cassidy stand up for one of the matches. You could just see that again, but manage the expectations now. Like, don't tell him who it is. It's probably going to be an AEW guy, but at this point, which would be a good thing to do. But then you have ELP, so maybe do give it. Who's in the match at the moment? I've completely forgotten.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to look that up because I can remember about 4 of the names, and I don't want to do anyone a disservice by saying not saying their name. So let me just bring that up now. But obviously we've got Neon in the match. So Neon, I believe, had a match out in Mexico recently where he defended the title. So and he retained the title, unsurprisingly. So in the match is Neon, ELP, Leon Slater, Cameron Kai, and Will Caven. So that leaves one spot there left for the copper box, and it'll be interesting to see who fills that spot. I'm in two minds as well. I think we could just as likely see a qualifier happen this weekend, but my thing the whole time has been, I think we see 2 names like an ELP level name, and ELP is one of those ones that fits that. The other one that I've said right from the beginning actually was Leo Rush. I think he could be perfect for something like this.
That's a really good shout. To be fair, that's a really good shout.
He's got the AEW links as well.
Yeah, and he's been in RevPro before. He knows the score. He'll be perfect for that spot. I can't really think of any other cruiserweights, to be honest, like RevPro or AEW, who would fit nicely in there.
It's weird to me now because I find to some degree, I don't know how you feel on this, but to me, like, cruiserweight used to be something was like a real distinctive thing, like in terms of style and stature. But now when you've got guys like Michael Oku, who is very light, I mean, obviously he's a tall guy, he's taller than me, but he's very light, and he was a cruiserweight. You had Luke, who was a cruiserweight, but still, like, now you kind of feel like anyone could go for anything. Like Sean Samuels dropped weight to go into the cruiserweights last year, so it feels that bit more fluid, that as long as you can get someone who can meet the criteria and be believable in that match, so it does open the door for quite a few options. But I I'd be surprised because I don't see anyone still on the RevPro list who I would put in there. So if we're thinking of the roster, realistically, the names that are in there already are the ones that I would think of. I'm trying to think of the other one maybe I'd put in there. Ethan Allen, already in a match. You're not going to put someone like Zozaya in a cruiserweight match because while he's a lot skinnier in stature, he just looks it because he's so tall and he's quite ripped. So like he would be someone who, like, style wise could fit in nicely with those guys, but he's not going to be in a cruiserweight match because probably doesn't fit the bill there. So I honestly don't know who the other option is within RevPro unless they bring someone who is notable on the UK scene who I'm unaware of and not considering, but there's nobody that's jumping out to me as cruiserweight wrestler that could come in here because the other obvious name is in Mexico at that time.
That is it though, isn't it? That Robbie X would be the answer. Mm-hmm. I can't think of anything. I mean, there might be a CMLL guy.
Yeah,
that might do it. That might be part of it. Like
I would love it. Mystico. Mystico would be great, and that could be a good one you could just announce.
You could do Mystico because Mystico is setting up that match with Jericho.
Oh, okay. So I've not seen that yet.
He's already over. Yeah, so him in CMLL.
Yeah.
If I'm completely wrong, it's not Mystico. I do apologise. But Mystico and Jericho are having a match. So you could put Mystico in a match, and then how he could pop up at Wembley.
That would be a good shout. I'm just
looking this up now. All three companies, and then all three companies could then have a little moment.
Oh yeah, I'm literally. Oh god, I'm literally looking at a video now of Chris Jericho of a Mystico match on.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't know if he's saying it in Spanish or. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's saying it in Spanish as well. So, yeah, okay, yeah, that would be good then, wouldn't it? If that could come out of things and have Mystico versus Leon Slater and Cameron Kai and Will Caven. And yeah, I mean, I love a scramble match. I'm not very big on time limit matches, right? If I know how long's left in the match, I get really taken out of it. But this is the kind of match for me where, like, it's different to an Iron Man match. Iron Man match, you have to pace really well to keep me invested. But with one of these kind of matches, you can just have these flash pinfalls, and that, obviously, you're still waiting to get to the end. It's still going to be the same amount of time. But depending on who was in possession of the title at the time, who's got the last pin. So, yeah, that should be a good match there. So, yeah, Leon Slater, he qualified there, which led us on to the tag team match. So, the thing that was funny about this was Francesca said, this is going to be contested under Lucha rules. And my wife just turned around to me and was like, what? Like, because when she thinks of Lucha, she thinks of luchadors, right? CMLL, those kind of style wrestlers. And so in her head, it didn't make sense. I was like, that's so that Oscar Harding doesn't need to remember who the legal man is in the match. Because when it all goes to shit, they can just, yeah. And it all went to shit pretty quickly. Like, it was just an attack of the senses of watching what was going on. But then everywhere around us, all these beach balls just started appearing. Which was, there was loads of them. So, like, I'm sitting there watching and a beach ball lands on my head. I'm like, oh god, what's going on here? And yeah, but Spike, I'll let you tell the viewers and listeners what you kind of pitched last week, because I have to say that when you pitched this to me, this is where I thought we were going with this match. And this, to me, I think would have been much better. Not that I think it's bad what they've done, but I think this would be much, when I say better, much more interesting in the build-up. Why don't you tell everyone what your thoughts were prior to the Summer Sizzler?
But obviously the big story going in is Sunshine Machine. The whole match is, in my opinion, based around them. So what I pitched last week was you have a double pin. So whether that's Danny Jones pins X, TK Cooper pins this guy, same time, that then leads us into one final match in Southampton, where I think you split Sunshine Machine up. Because I think the double pin at York Hall would have I mean, it sounds a bit clunky, but there are ways around it. Like, you could quite easily have a finish on two guys, and then the last gasp headbutt from TK, him and Danny Jones flop onto the guys 1, 2, 3. I think that would have been a cool way to go.
Yeah.
But like I said to you earlier on a message, are we thinking quite tunnel vision in RevPro? And I'm not looking at the wider wrestling world, but that personally, I thought that would have been a really fun angle to go with.
Yeah, I think you're right. That it would be a fun angle to go with, and like you said, the Southampton curse, like that is drilled into us now. I can't think that they're not going to be at Southampton, right? So, what do they do? Like, does GYV go? Actually, like, do they have a promo on screen where GYV are basically like trying to get the heel here? Because GYV, when they've come in, Zach Gibson was a heel, straight up, going for Michael Oku. Then since they've come in, they've been these happy baby faces, haven't they? And I can't think that GYV are going to be in RevPro much longer, because I thought we'd have GYV around a bit more than we have. From what I understand, recently they were out in LA, which LA isn't much difference from Florida flight time than Florida to the UK is, I don't think. I think it's still like a 6-7 hour flight, so it felt like GYV could have been over for a RevPro show. They could have been over for a York Hall or something, but they're not. Is what it is, sort of thing. There's obviously something at play there that means that we can't have them over. So part of me is wanting the belts off of GYV. I'm not going to hide behind Sunshine Machine as a team. Just don't do it for me. So them taking the titles is the least interesting option for me. But even still, I think I've said it before. Like, you've got the Chekhov's gun theory of like theatre. Like, you introduce this thing. Like, you introduce a gun in a TV show, it has to be used. Like, you don't introduce it to then just take it away and nothing ever happens. The wrestling version of that, if you might recall, is the secret lockbox that Vince had for Shane McMahon that he was going to expose to the world if he lost to The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and it was like, oh, no, there was nothing ever there. I think the double pin could have happened, like I said, Lucha rules, so stuff's going on. So you could have had one of them get down for the pin at the same time. Maybe TK, you could have Brendan Jones cover one of Brendan White, Danny Jones. Oh god, yeah, I'm amalgamating them. Yeah, Brendan White, you could have him just pin Oscar Leuber, and then you could have Oscar Harding get down, start the count, and just as he's starting the count, you could have TK roll up Yuto on the other side, or even he could get Danny Jones and he could roll him up, and literally as he starts pinning him, you could have Oscar Harding looking at him, like, and really then build up that whole, well, he's focused on Brendan, so does that, and like, you could, like you said, there's ways to do it that makes it interesting and schmozzes it up a little bit, but adds to that drama for Sunshine Machine. Then you get to Southampton. Now, I have to say, Southampton would be my place to do it, because the Southampton curse, it's one of those things that people will think, no, it's not going to happen there. And then you do it. Also, the other reason I like that idea is we'll be so much closer to Dave at that point. So to actually be around Dave while that happens, chef's kiss. But no, I think that would have been interesting. I think it's fine. Like, they've got the match at the Copper Box. Do we see something at Southampton where, like I said, GYV have a video where they put an opponent in Sunshine Machine's way? Because obviously, if Sunshine Machine lose, they split up as a tag team. So do they try and put a roadblock so that they just don't have a competitor for the Copper Box and add the intrigue that way? That could be something that they do. We could still get that kind of that intrigue up to it. But yeah, this was fun. I'll say that this match was fun.
Yeah.
It was just the ending fell a bit flat for me, because I think there was just so many better options that could have come out of it. But at the same time, there was lots going on everywhere. Everywhere you turned, you could just see people brawling. it was quite a sight with them all in the ring, and it didn't outstay its welcome. That's what I'll say about this match. It clocked in at 9.5 minutes, and it felt like it hit the right amount of time. Actually, just felt like you got everything you needed from the scenario. Job done. The next match was Zozaya versus Ricky Knight Jr. So they obviously had their really great match at Raw Deal, which I was there for that match, and that was one of my favorite matches I've seen. Have you had a chance to watch that one yet?
I feel like I've seen stuff from it.
Yeah.
I know everyone raved about how good it was.
Yeah, it was everything you kind of expect. I mean, Ricky Knight Jr. God, that guy, when he hits hard, and like you know the sounds that he makes when he does that. This one ended a bit abruptly, so I don't know if you've heard, but it was a ref stoppage, and I never know with these things. I never know whether it's legit or whether it's one of those scenarios where they're playing it up as a stoppage to build up to something. And like obviously, because when we were speaking on the pod, Dave said that he thought that's where they were going for the copper box, like the third match, and that he was expecting Zozaya to pick this up. I forget exactly what he did, but Zozaya came off the top rope, and because of where Ricky Knight Jr.'s head was, so we were kind of here, his head was there, so we saw his feet. So it looked like Zozaya might have landed a bit snug on his face. He hooked in for the pin. He counted 2, and then Ref Harv just kind of stopped at that point. And then he was like, "No, he's out. And then what kind of from there made me a bit unsure was they did get medical personnel in the ring, and they had a few people rush down, help him out. But then I've also seen that in other promotions when it's been a work. So I don't know. All I can say is that obviously I hope that if it wasn't a work, that the guy's doing all right, because you don't like to see something bad happen in the ring. He was leaving on his own feet. He did look a bit dazed, so I don't know if it was. It looked like it could have been real, but it was one of those ones. It clocked in at 12 minutes, which is probably for most of the matches on this card around like the time frame of where they're all clocking in. But this one really felt like it stopped before it got started. Like the first match was so hard hitting and explosive, and this second match felt like it was building up to have a bit of a longer runtime with it. But yeah, this I don't know where they go from here for like towards the copper box. So what were your thoughts for where Zozaya goes to at the copper box and where RKJ goes? Because I know for me, both of the options that I thought they were going for later in the show get taken off the table completely.
If it's legit and he is injured, but he can get cleared in 2 weeks, you could do the rubber match because you have set a nice story now. Because Zozaya can say, I had him beat. He was down. You decided not to count. RKJ can say, if you hadn't have knocked me out, or fair play, you knocked me out, but I want to go to a finish.
Yeah.
You can do it again, but I mean, I know we just saw it. I would just do something else. I don't know who I'd put. I mean, RKJ is an interesting one for me. I don't know who is available for him to have a big match with. But Zozaya, you can put Zozaya against anyone really. This is a showcase for him. It's going to be his show.
Yeah.
His star-making performance. So you could find anyone really. A New Japan guy, a CMR guy, a RevPro guy.
Yeah. Because it was interesting because obviously, first of all, like you said, hope RKJ, if it is something, he can get cleared because the guy worked hard, and I do think that he's been a bit directionless in RevPro. Like he's been the one that doesn't feel like has been a clear path of where he's going. You kind of get with.
You say that. I feel the same about Leon Slater. ever since Leon Slater got signed to TNA, he's had the similar sort of uppy downy. We'll start the push, drop the push, start the push, and I feel like they're both on the same sort of trajectory. I don't know whether that's an internal thing or because like Slater dropping the belt was weird for me. Like even I think we've spoken about it. Me and Dave have spoken about it, and then RKJ never really going back for his belt. I also find weird.
Yeah.
So unless he's going to be the first challenger after in a post Copper Box world, and then we start the RKJ Jacob Oku thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what the plan's going to be for him.
I'm with you there on Leon Slater because I've thought the same, and I've kind of chalked that up a little bit to TNA because they seem to be using him a bit more. But then when I think that, I think, well, what's the excuse with Danny Luna? Like, because Danny Luna's in a story. So yeah, I think I'm the same with you there on Leon. Where RKJ differs from me a little bit is because of, like you said, this history with the title. I kind of think of him as like, I don't see Leon in that same group of these are going to be like your guys that are going to carry the show, right? Leon's got a role there right now. He could be one of those guys that goes on to carry the show, and I'd like to see that. But like much like Robbie X, I think Leon's got like what he need. Like we've said before, like the Undertaker didn't need this, and I kind of think that Leon Slater is another one like that. You can put him on the card, and he's going to draw people in just based on who he is. RKJ, I've also thought that he's going to be the next challenger after the Copper Box. Like that's, I think even Dave, when we've spoken to, we've all kind of pitched similar kind of. He's going to be the first one if Luke, especially, retains. Him and Luke had an amazing match in Progress at the end of Super Strong Style, and that's with Progress booking that they had a great match. So imagine what they can do in RevPro, and that's not to be tribalistic against two companies, just two very different booking philosophies. And I think that if you can do it with the way they do things there, and actually do it in a more long, drawn-out way in RevPro, you could have a fantastic match with them. But I thought what we were building up to was RKJ versus Gabe Kidd, because RKJ just seemed to call out Gabe Kidd out of nowhere, and then nothing has happened with that since. And obviously, we'll get to it a little bit later, but Gabe Kidd is now busy for the Copper Box, so it's not going to be Gabe Kidd. And I think if you're gonna put RKJ up next for the title, it feels like he needs something to just keep him like fresh, because I know he had the Anthony Go-Go stuff, but that feels like the only like genuine story thing he's had that I can remember within the last year. Like since the last Copper Box, a Go-Go, and that's it. So we'll see. We'll have to see what happens there. I'm not fully sure yet, and then I think Southampton. Well, first of all, we need to see that the guy's okay first. I know he's got a big match coming up for Progress a couple of days after the Copper Box as well against Kenta. So hoping the guy can get healed up so he can get to do that, because that would be a great match for him. But yeah, that was just one that kind of stopped a bit before it got started. Right, let's go back and take a look at the Summer Sizzler card again, just to remind myself what was up next. I think the next match actually may have been the women's match, which, yeah, it was. That was fantastic. Like, these women are all absolutely on fire at the moment. Like, the biggest nitpick that I can have for you, right? And it is one that you know because I texted you about and said, right? The one thing I didn't like was while they were all dressed in their own style, they all wore like red tops, right? So they look like a group now. And one of the things I think I said to Dave before, they kind of remind me of the Spice Girls a little bit, right? They all had their own unique style. They didn't dress in the same colors or anything. They all had their own unique style. But when they were together as a group, they looked like they belonged as a group. And that's what I liked about this group. And I don't know, just they're all wearing the same color just seemed to take away a little bit for me for that. That is the most minor of minor nitpicks, all right? I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. It's not going to change anything for me. They were great. They came down, they had a great presence, and they were all round the ring the whole time. Dani comes out, gets the cheer and the pop that you imagine she's going to. She is over. She continues to be over. She's in the ring, and then they all kind of get up on the sides of the ring and kind of like get like a bit of a pack going. Ref sorts them out a little bit, keeps them there for a bit longer. Eventually, heel tactics catch up with them. They all get chucked out, and Dani's in there, sorts out Nina. What does happen is they get about halfway up the ramp, and you kind of, I don't know if it's picked up on commentary or not, but I heard Liz Eva going, "Wait a minute, there's 5 of us. There's only one ref." So they go back down there. They sort the ref out. They try and do a bit of intimidation tactics. There was a great spot with Sapphire Reed. So Dani, I think, is on the inside of the ring on the second rope. She grabs Sapphire off the ring apron and German suplexes her in. And obviously, Dani is great at shit like that. Sapphire sold it like an absolute champ that she is. And I can't remember, looking back on it, I can't remember whether this led to the finish or whether this was post-match. Forgive me, there was a lot going on, but kind of sitting there and you kind of saw people like going, oh, and you over in the corner go, what's going on over there? And then you just saw Kanji walking through the crowd. And then it was like, the same was happening over this side of the venue. And Debbie Keitel walked in. So I'm sitting there going, looking around me going, right, which side's Rio coming from? And there she was, like, she just came from this side. And at this point, kind of like chaos ensues. The baby faces are up, and then they shout for a table. And, and sorry, by this point as well, when they're outnumbered a little bit, Nightshade kind of comes out. She gets the big entrance, and they all kind of start to shit themselves a little bit. They get a table, and they put Alex Windsor through the table. So that's how that segment ends, and they're looking really strong, booked really, really well. It looks kind of like those ones where you'd see like sort of like a WWE at the time do, when you kind of got these ones where the big stars just walking through the crowd and on the way in, you're like, oh shit, it's going down now. And because of how full the venue was, it felt like that as well. It felt like a massive deal. And it was just really, really well executed. And I think the crowd were really into it. Its challenge has now been accepted for the Copper Box. So I suppose now it's, one, how do you see things going with this in terms of building up to it? Do you see anything getting booked for Southampton? Who do you think the final person is going to be? Because we're still one person down for the team going against the Cutthroat Collective.
First thing, your nitpick about the colours, that shows how good they are. There's a solid unit and the whole angle. The only thing you're doing is finding, I don't like the colours, and not anything else. That shows how good they are.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They are so good.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it might have just been a very, for the crowds, to be people who don't know who they are, because there are probably some casuals there.
Mm-hmm.
The ones in the red, they're the bad guys. All these new faces are the good guys. It could have just been that.
It could well be.
I'm scared that Dani Luna's the fifth person. Like, I'm really scared that now Stephanie Vacca's gone.
Mm-hmm.
He's just on the tag match. I don't want her to be in the tag match. Not because I don't think it's beneath. Not because I think it's beneath her. I just think Dani Luna needs that marquee match.
Yeah.
But they haven't set anyone else up, so I am worried. But the 5-on-5 is going to be so fun.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have some absolute stars in there. You're going to have Safari kicking the shit out of people. It's going to be fun. I mean, it could be, like we have said before, I mean, it won't be Sky Blue, but last year we had Sky Blue just turn up.
Mm-hmm.
So you could quite easily have a AEW name. But I think Dave floated Saraya. But there's loads of women that could be Anna Jay, people like that, which would be a lovely pop, and it kind of makes sense. Babyface help babyfaces.
I think you're right there, and I'm getting scared of that as well, because what I firmly expected to happen here after the match was, because I think at this point as well, Dani Luna, so what happened at the end of the match, Dani Luna escaped in the crowd. That's what happened, right? I'm remembering it now. Dani Luna gets the pin, jumps out the crowd, Cutthroat Collective are in there, and they're giving it the, oh, this is your champion, eh? She runs away, and that's when the women kind of came in at that point, right? So that's how we got to there. And because at that point Dani's disappeared, it was like, well, we're not getting the match graphic on screen now. But what they did before this at some point was they rolled a video package for, I'm going to butcher his name, I think it's Barbario Cavanario, the luchador from CMLL. And they did like a package for him, and then flashed up British Jacob. I was like, right, okay, so they're obviously filling in. That was the only announcement they did all night, right? Just randomly in the middle of the show. So I thought maybe we're going to get another one of these pop up with Dani Luna's opponent at some point. I know we've spoken about with Dave in the chat before, and he's like, well, no, Andy said he's gonna have all titles defended. Well, Andy Quilden also said that he's gonna have half the card out on Friday night for Southampton, the rest for tonight. Plans change sometimes, and yes, there's a wealth of female talent out there that you could pull upon. But if there's one thing that I know that Andy Quilden likes to do, it's find someone who is not only equal, but better than what he could have got. And replacing Steph Faker, even as an equal, is a big ask. It's a massive ask. I can see Dani being that fifth person. I don't want it to be, purely because while the story's been great and she's a firm part of that, I think she deserves that big one-on-one match opportunity, because she didn't get that at the Copper Box last year. She got the pre-show Battle Royal, and this last year, Dani Luna has just strength to strength in RevPro, absolutely strength to strength, has earned that big spot on the big card, and I would just prefer it if she got that chance to shine by herself, really. Well, obviously with an opponent, but like as not as part of the team. I think that would be really good. But some great options there that you floated as well, like plenty of people around. And again, can you draw on someone from AEW? Can you, if you're not going to get Willow in as Dani's partner, could you get someone like Willow in a tag match? Because she's just in a tag match at AEW. She's not in a, like, it's just going to be a Tomohiro Ishii beating the shit out of Stokely Hathaway while the other two get in and do the odd little bit. So yeah, that's interesting. But like you said, if the very minor nitpick, and it's a style thing more than anything, just of how, like, what I liked, like I said, it's not going to affect anything. It's just a very minor thing that shows how on fire this group is, how great they're booking it. And I think it was one of the people that I follow, Catherine, she goes to a lot of the shows. She put a tweet out yesterday and says, like, you've got 10 women being highlighted in a RevPro ring in a segment that is like a massive segment. We've never seen that before. We just haven't. And the crowd were eating it up. So long may it continue.
Yeah, building on your whole thing about Dani Luna, just her 2024 has been not another level. I know she signed to TNA, which can maybe complicate the whole thing. I don't know how wrestling politics work, but that might have, AEW might not.
Yeah.
Might have an issue with that. But he's been so good. I went to watch New Wave a few months ago, and I don't get, so I'm a chef, so I have a work ethic, but wrestlers are something else, man. But we were in Cardiff, and she was wrestling in a battle royal that night. But like literally an hour before, 2 hours before, she was in Swansea wrestling a one-on-one match. And she got in her car, drove to Cardiff, wrestled again, and then did merch. You're a different beast. Like, she's and I've seen her wrestle a few times. Probably seen her the most I've seen anyone this year.
Mm-hmm.
She's just amazing.
Yeah.
There's not enough words to say about that and how good she is, how good she's got.
Yeah. So it's right. We're on to the last 3 matches of the card, and the first of the big name imports. It was Donovan Dijak versus Robbie X, and obviously we saw kind of the start of this at Coventry when Robbie X was leaving his match, and Dijak was coming out, and Dijak just decided he was gonna destroy Robbie X. And at the end of the match, Robbie came and got afters on Dijak as well, so kind of setting this match up, which was great. What I loved about this was, first of all, Dijak entered this match as full blown heel and left as a full blown babyface, which was great. Like literally turned by the end of it. I loved everything about Dijak. So I've always liked him in WWE. Back when I used to watch NXT before he was called up to the main roster, and he was just, I think it was Dominic Dijakovic, and like had that great match with Keith Lee and everything. I never watched main roster WWE at that point, so I know of T-Bar, but don't know too much about Retribution. And then I know when he went to NXT, he was like dressed how he is now. He basically looks like Terminator. That seems to be what he's going for a little bit. And yeah, his style is so hard hitting, so explosive, and he moves so well for a big guy. But it was complemented really nicely with Robbie's style. What I really appreciate about this match, right? So this match and the next match are, with the exception of the tag match, the 2 shortest matches on the card. But you could very easily, if someone said to me they preferred this to Michael Oku and and MJF, I could take that. I could believe it. The same with the next match. I could believe these 3 matches in particular were 3 of the best matches I've seen of RevPro this year. Like it was just one after the other. And especially with there being no interval, because I had that high stakes, and I can tell you, I felt there being no interval. Like I really did. It added to a bit of drag, but for this show it didn't. Like it just kept going and going and going. What I really appreciated and what I liked about Dijak here was his ability to realize that he can get a good match out of a small guy, right? You get the big guys who just want to look dominant and they don't want to put the other guy over. Then you got the big guys who, like Brock Lesnar would do with Eddie, Bryan Danielson, smaller guys to him, would kind of look and go, I could bump for these guys and like make them look great and give them their moment, but still get the win at the end. And that's what happened here. Like you had him bumping. You had a point where you thought Robbie X might pick the win up over him, which is great. That's what you want from it. So this was probably one of the ones I say, like, if you're strapped for time, just head straight here and watch this match because it was great. Loved it. Clocked in at just over 11 minutes. Felt longer when you're watching it, and not longer in a bad way whatsoever. Just felt longer. So really, really liked that. At the end of the match, he raised Robbie's hand. Now, honestly, where I thought we were going, I thought he was going to level Robbie again and Zozaya come out. And how we finished this match was he got the microphone and he started speaking, and literally within like the first 10 seconds of him speaking, we got a video of Gabe Kidd and Gabe Kidd challenging him for the copper box. So that's the match that this set up, was Gabe Kidd versus Dijak copper box. What was really interesting was kind of at the end of it, that's when Dijak was like, he was turning face, but he was doing it in such an American way. Like he was, I think he was like, I want to say it's like, now we know what happened to Harry Potter's virgin brother or something, like, you know, the very much the like haha, very funny sort of thing. But and then weirdly at the end he like, because like Gabe Kidd's promo was talking about how he was fired from WWE and something about Shawn Michaels. So like at the end he just spent like 2 minutes putting over Shawn Michaels and just like how great he thought Shawn Michaels was, which was a bit odd. But yeah, turned in face. In case you never heard this from Gabe Kidd, and I've only watched one Gabe Kidd match in the last year, like, but the thing that he kept saying over and over again, like in his match with Zack Sabre Jr., was, I'm a madman, you know. Like literally kept saying it to the point of parody almost a little bit. And in this promo, that's exactly what he said there as well. So not the match I saw coming because, like I said, I was expecting Gabe Kidd and Dijak to pair off with other people. So this doesn't feel like a RevPro match in a way that most of the RevPro matches that have got imports are someone else versus someone RevPro. And I know that Gabe Kidd has been in RevPro, but I do almost class him as an import, even though he's British, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, gonna be an interesting one. What do you think of this pairing?
I think it's gonna slap. It's gonna be hard hitting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've always loved Dijak. I mean, pre NXT Black and Gold, I knew of Dijak because a friend of mine would show me Progress Rev Pro, but he was amazing. Like his matches with Keith Lee in particular, and he's always been one of those guys who will he'll spot the good in what he's in his opponent and work that way around.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just I've never met the dude, but he seems one of those guys that are like, how can I make us both look good?
Yeah.
It's all well and good him looking amazing, but like I've always thought, and you hear loads of legends say it now. You're only as good as your opponent. You only look as good as your opponent looks.
Yeah.
So, and Robbie X is Robbie X. Like you give Robbie X a space, he'll make you look good, and then Dijak is willing to go, I will make you look just as good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Gabe Kidd is a weird one because, like you say, he's technically an import because he's New Japan. We don't know where Dijak is going, whether he is or not. But that does feel like an import versus import.
Yeah.
But I mean, Gabe Kidd, he's appeared in AEW a couple of times, hasn't he?
I think once or twice in tag matches, maybe.
If Dijak's going to AEW, or he is having a Japan run, it's a perfect way to start it.
Absolutely.
But if you're going to do that much down the line in one of those companies, Buffer Box is a perfect place to start that little feud because it could be a forever feud because Dijak is an athletic, beat the shit out of you kind of wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe Kidd I've only seen him a couple of times, but I'm pretty sure he's very similar. When I saw him against Josh James, he was smash mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it is an odd pairing, but again, like Dave always says, trust in Andy Gordon.
Absolutely, and sometimes you just got to do these matches when the opportunity arrives, haven't you?
That's what happened with. It was Oki, I remember Oki saying it on Jericho's podcast. The only reason he faced Ospreay in the 1865 when he did is that Gordon went, I don't know how long I've got Ospreay for, and I want to see you versus Ospreay, so you're doing it in Southampton. And look what's happened. Like he knew his time was limited, and he's the 3 best matches in RevPro history, or 2. Like, so yeah, I trust in Andy. If he's seen an opportunity and taken it, there's a reason behind it.
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of times in wrestling where we've said, "Why are you not doing this match under your nose right now?" And look, there's going to be an opportunity again. You'd think to do RKJ versus Gabe Kidd because it doesn't look like RKJ is going anywhere anytime soon. Like I thought maybe with Zach in AEW that maybe they'd get RKJ because respectfully, if you're going to take one of them, you take RKJ. And I thought maybe they could get him in, tag with him, but doesn't look like to be on the cards right now, maybe. So, yeah, you go with this match. And I'm much like you. I think it's going to be a good Smash Mouth match. But all I could think when I was watching this yesterday was I really, really want to see Dijak against Lance Archer because I think that would be amazing. Lance Archer, even now, is such an underrated big guy for what he can do. And when I was at 1PW last year, he was part of one of the most boring matches I've ever seen, but I don't put a lot of that on him. But his opponents in the main event, it was a 4-way match, and it was I remember there was him, Osprey and Haskins all as part of it. I think it was Cara Noir as well. But Osprey and Haskins with Lance Archer, yeah, it was incredible. So yeah, not one I saw coming, but really good. One of the things I did enjoy was I was at the merch tables and I put a tweet out about this, but Dijak had a price list, right? I love that he has a price list because so many times like, I get worried that I'm going to go and speak to a wrestler and be like, can I get a picture? And they're like, yeah, charge this. And you kind of like,
Yeah.
Don't really fancy paying that. And you don't want that awkwardness, do you? Not that these imports are going to remember you, but you don't want that feeling. So he's got his price list. First of all, it was really funny because it was all in dollars, but he was like telling people it was pounds. So he was playing that trick. But this woman, an older woman, had bought like a copy of the poster, and she went over to Trevor Lee, got him to sign it, and she came to Dijak, and he went, "Yeah," he said, "just so you know, that'd be £25 for a signature." Right? He wasn't cheap. He was about £25 for a signature, 30 quid for a photo, which fair play. That's what he wants to charge. Yeah. Too rich for my blood. But she turned around to him and she went, £25? That's far too expensive. And he handled it like an absolute pro. He went, "Ma'am," he says, "I've got 3 kids at home." He said, "I'm sorry." And I like that because at the end of the day, she didn't want to pay that. She was trying to guilt him into doing it for free.
Free one, yeah.
And he just stood his ground. And a lot of respect for that. Like, at the end of the day, you'll get the wrestlers who follow the Matt Cardona rule of this is a business. You can charge for pictures. And a lot of the people in the British scene don't do that. It's not the done thing, really. And that's why when you see some, I found it being especially the ones who have been in WWE or who have had that name value are the ones who are more likely to charge for it. While he's AEW, Santana did exactly the same thing. Progress. He was charging 20 quid for a picture, which again I thought was a bit expensive, but someone I really liked, so I would have paid it. But annoyingly, he was only accepting cash, so he wasn't getting many picture sales, which was a bit of an odd one. But yeah, takes us on to the next one: Luke Jacobs versus Trevor Lee. This was fantastic. It's first of all, it started with this little brawl between Connor Mills and Ethan Allen, and I'm going by what I've been told here. So my wife was there and Sharon was there. A lot of you will probably have seen Sharon on the seen Sharon on the stream. Most likely they'll speak to her in a queue, but they were kind of either side of me, and I was at the bar getting a drink at this point. As Luke kind of was making his way out, and it kind of all started kicking off. And from what I understand, Mills came out to attack Ethan Allen, and then something was going on, and Ethan Allen kind of vanquished Mills and got rid of him. The match between Luke Jacobs and Trevor Lee. So I've seen some Cameron Grimes matches in WWE. Right, I've not seen him outside of WWE, so I don't know much about him other than reputation. The guy is great, and I would have no objections to him being the other man in the Cruiserweight Scramble. I don't know if it's like too much for him to then go back and come back out for it. I think he would be brilliant in that match. He had much more of a hard-hitting style than I expected. Like quite matched with Luke on that. Very similar physique to Luke as well. So kind of looked quite a good pairing, but high flying, like you would imagine, technical, striking. The guy has it all. And he doesn't look like the kind of like in NXT had like the long scraggly hair and almost look like a bit like Trailer Park Trash a little bit with the hat. No, the guy's got his hair cut down. He's a good looking guy. He's built up. He's got personality. He can go. Like he's got all the tools. And again, one of my favorite matches of the night. Like I wasn't expecting it to be quite as good as this.
Trevor Lee's a weird one, though, isn't he? I remember pre-NXT, he was considered one of the best wrestlers in the world. You'd hear his name all the time. And he was a handsome dude before Cameron Grimes. I'm sure he had short hair back then. But I remember him just being talked about. And I've not seen a lot of his matches, but I remember thinking, no, this guy's insane. NXT comes along. They did what they did to him. He made the best of the situation. He got over, and he made it work. He made Cameron Grimes work.
Yes,
so
he
I'm
did.
so happy that he's got that on his. He's carrying that name with him now. He's got that. He's got that on his back. He's recognised by kids. He can sign. He can charge. He can make his money. He's back to Trevor Lee. So he's got the best of both worlds. He's got his wrestling back, and he's such a good wrestler. And Luke Jacobs in the last year has become probably the best in the British scene at the moment.
Yeah.
So I reckon Trevor Lee had the time of his life.
Yeah, I reckon
the
so.
game.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, I've heard great things about him. And then when I saw him in NXT, like, try not to judge him based solely on that, because sometimes with indie wrestlers, especially ones that you don't get to see week in, week out, they can have a very dedicated part of a fan base who hype them up to the moon. And had to get that in there. And sometimes you need to see it with your own eyes to judge. Firmly converted on this. I'd love to see him back in RevPro. Just if it looks like I'm looking away, and to anyone watching as well, I'm looking at my phone. The reason I'm looking at my phone is because about halfway through this, the heat got to my laptop a little bit, so I've got Twitter loaded on my phone so we can kind of keep up with the bits that are going on. And I've just seen on Twitter that Summer Sizzler is now up on RevPro on demand, so you'll be able to go and watch that one. Yeah, but looking at some of the video that's on there, it definitely looks like it's been shot as a professional camera setup. So
it looked different. I will say it looked different on the stream.
Yeah, I know that when they've done that before, like, it's been like a bit of a mixture between like the normal cameras, and then like you can tell like the high def cameras that Mark Ashley Films have used. I'm sure it's Mark Ashley Films who did the little Will Ospreay documentary. Pretty sure it's them. Like, you can definitely tell like in there when they've done it. And looking at some of the shots here, it looks the same, because all of the normal lads that normally do all the cameras, they were all out there at the beginning, and then like just checking everything, and then the guys came out in the black t-shirts, black polo shirts, and just like, right, off you go. And yeah, which leads us on nicely to the main event, which I know you watched, because you had the opportunity to watch that. Ooh, that was quite the main event. Like, first of all, it was really weird, because we were watching and we were like, oh, someone's coming out, and it was dancers on the stage, and I thought that was going to be for MJF. But it wasn't, and obviously I think that's to replicate the dancers that were in CMLL that Michael Oku had, but he didn't really do any dancing with them. Amira did a little bit, but it just felt a little bit weird at first. And then I thought, well, maybe they're going to stay out there for MJF, and they're going to do, because they've both done CMLL, and then they disappeared. But the reaction for Michael Oku was, for me, it felt just as big as when at High Stakes, like that intensity, like everyone, as soon as we knew it was main event time, everyone got on their feet. It was like, this is where I'm glad I've got front row here, because everyone got up, and then come out, slapping all hands, doing all of that building up. MJF coming out, it was still really surreal, like so surreal, him coming out and like literally right in front of me. And then some absolute knob in the crowd decided he was going to chuck his pint of water, which didn't reach MJF in the slightest, but reached us in the front row. I'd like to. I don't think they will be, but if you are listening to this, don't do that. Fucking sucks. But yeah, MJF literally, as I posted the picture on Twitter, I could have got much better with it, but literally got up on the apron right in front of me. And most of the night, if you watch, most of the guys were going around the other side as part of their entrance. So they were going down there, and then they were like on the end of the ring, playing to the hard cam, which is up there on the balcony. Of course, MJF is probably doing where he's used to in AEW, which the hard cam would be to where we were. So yeah, stood right in front of me, got a great picture of him, which actually I saw this morning was liked by MJF's dad. So I'm literally one person removed from the actual subject there. Look, it's going to be a match that I'm going to have to watch back to actually fully appraise. And I know that we'll probably have very different viewpoints on it. Not because I've got any negative to say about it, but when you're in a match, watching a match like that unfold in front of you, and you've got kind of the emotion of everything literally happening right there. And this is the first time I've been that close to the front. Like, I've had some good seats for events. I've never had front row with someone like MJF. Like, the closest I've ever had to that was John Moxley versus Trent Seven for OTT, and that was like a hardcore match. Like, it didn't feel like it had the same stakes that this one did. Then this had a lot of stakes going into it because obviously we had the videos, we've got all the promos. I think it must have been at James Musselwhite's studio. I think that they actually recorded the video of Michael and Amira as well, because that was all nice and professionally done. Like, all shared by AEW. It felt like this had major stakes coming into it. So for you watching on stream, how did all of this translate?
I had, as far as the match goes, I had the time of my life. Oki came out. Weirdly, I was just sat here and we just had dinner and I was like, while everyone's chilling, click the wrestling on, see where we are. I flick it on, Michael Oku on stage. I was like, perfect. Obviously, I don't know if it's the mics or whatever, but it never seems as loud on the stream.
Yeah.
As when it is in house. But you could tell it was loud for Michael Oku. And I saw the dancer and I just thought straight away, MJF doing something with her. Whether he's going to push her off the stage or something. It was just kind of out of the blue.
Yeah.
I don't see MMA was a big thing. I think Oku might want to take that as part of his gimmick.
Yeah.
Because it's got Kenny Omega vibes. It's quite fun.
It does, yeah.
But so he came out. Amira looked amazing as always. They both just look like stars. They're walking around the ring, slapping hands. You look incredibly happy when you walk past you. But it was just babyface Michael Oku.
Yeah.
And then I know it's his job. I know MJF is very good at what he does, but the way he turned that crowd in a second was one of the best things I've ever seen. He comes out. Obviously, I watched it. I don't know how quick you guys saw the Hulk Hogan.
I didn't realize that he was I saw it, but I didn't actually realize properly until he took the. It was when he took the flag off, and I saw MJF and Red across the back, and I was like, yeah, it's Hulk.
So I spotted as soon as he walks out, because I was sat here, little boy was sat next to me, and I was like, you need to watch this. You might not know this now, but in 10 years' time, this is a fixed moment in wrestling. Michael Oku versus MJF. And my other half sat there, and I swear to God, he comes out, I spot the yellow, and I went into a full 5-minute explanation of why this is the best trolling I've ever seen in my entire life. I was like, he's coming out as Hulk Hogan. Teddy knows what Hulk Hogan is. He already knows what Hulk Hogan is 5 years old. He got it. He got it because I got it. And I was like, all he's done is come out in a very yellow trunks. And everyone's gone, oh, I know this. We hate you.
Yeah.
But the crowd was singing his song, which is, again, a British staple now, and I love it. We sing a song with no words. It's sick. So he comes down. I'm like, yeah, this is why this is great. Went through all the backstory of Trump, the famous recording, and the whole American hero thing. And then he gets in, touches promo, and within a minute, the crowd are like, no, fuck you, MJF. Like, we hate you now. And, like, he was so good. And then, like, but the best part of the whole promo, and I text you this, is he took a pause. I think it was after the neo-Nazi line.
Oh, yeah.
Or after one of those lines, you see Andy Cool and go, this guy's a prick. And then when he, I don't know if you would have had it in the arena, but when he walks out, he walks up the ramp, he shouts at Andy, I don't need to be here, you've already paid me.
Oh, no, didn't hear that.
And Andy just went, "What a knob!" It was
Oh, I
so
love
funny.
that.
But yeah, the whole engine was great. I thought the promo was too long,
Hmm.
but I do understand after when he started the second promo, I understood it because he wanted to get the real American in,
Yeah.
and that again, I laughed so hard.
Yeah.
If I was in there, I probably would have been going out top of my lungs. But because I
Yeah.
wasn't in that atmosphere and I could watch it unfold, I was having the time of my life. Because
Yeah.
I love a heel stick, and I personally love how Hogan's become a parody.
Hmm.
We both lived through the tail end of Hulkamania, and most probably lived through adults telling us how important Hulk Hogan is. And we've now come out the other end, and whenever we see a Hulk Hogan, it's a heel thing.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite things. I know that Wembley last year, Punk did it. He did Cena to Hogan,
Mhm.
and I just love it. And MJF building on that and coming out as an American hero,
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan, dropping in different quotes and stuff. It was
Yeah.
fantastic. Like,
It, it was great.
and what
And
was the
like,
promo like for you? Was the promo
yeah,
too long in there?
no, it wasn't, because it was interesting when you text me that, because I think that is one of the differences sometimes of being there and it being rowdy and hot and everything, and you're just in there soaking everything up because you're like, just keep doing more, like, because I've got nowhere to be at this point, right? I look at the
Yeah.
time that we're on. I know that my train isn't until 20 past 10, and I know that I've got plenty of time. So you want to keep rambling on, doing your heel shit, you go for it. So it didn't feel like it went on as long as you told me it did. Like, it felt like it was only a couple of minutes. So yeah, and then the neo-Nazi line came out, and that's when I broke. So I was booing the whole time, and then that happened. I was like, yeah, he's got a point there. No, I thought the match was great. I thought, like, I love how we can just get heat, right? Of all things, when Oku gets the top rope and he just rolls slowly away, and you're like, and you know it's building something. And so Oku's on that post. When he does that frog splash, he's on the post right there. And I go, no, he's not going to make it. He's not going to, like, no way. And he does. And you're just like, Michael Oku still finds ways to, like, surprise you almost. Like, and I think we've said it before, both of us at different times, that like Michael Oku's superpower almost is like his ability to take a beating, but still make you believe he can win. Right? That is as a babyface. And what was really interesting today, I was watching an interview he had with Stephanie Chase, and I think he had that like this morning. I think he did the interview this morning. So like it was after the match, but they were chatting about it, and he said like as babyface, that's what he is. He's the babyface that's going to get beat. Like that's what he's playing up to there. So he looked on MJF's level, right? If you go back to Copper Box last year, and I mean this in a nice way, he wasn't trusted to get people in the building, right? That was Ospreay and Shingo's job because it was the first time that RevPro did this. The way he's been built over the last year, and he's been put in that position this year. If it was Luke Jacobs and anyone else, do I think it would have been the main event? No, I don't. I think Michael Oku is a big part of why that's the main event this year. And I say that with a lot of love for Luke Jacobs. But the matches that he's had and the way they built him up, and the match at high stakes, and that has really cemented Michael as like the guy. Like, he's no longer like I did a piece today that I put up about Michael Oku, where I said that it's very much like the shadow of Will Ospreay, right? So it's Will Ospreay was this big mythical end boss, and you've got all these supporting casts. Now Oku is rightly standing outside that shadow, up by himself, and he's just as like he's not as big in terms of notoriety of people that know him because of Ospreay in Japan, Ospreay in AEW and stuff, but he looked like he belonged. And I can't say that if you're doing a show this close to the Copper Box, I firmly believe that you can't just put anyone in that match with MJF. Even though it's MJF, you can't put him in there with just anyone. I even think Leon Slater, I think it'd be a great match. I don't think you're selling it based on that because I think the outcome is too predictable. Whereas I think what worked really well with this is a lot of things going on here that made the outcome of this match. Even though a lot of people said MJF's going to win, there's no way he's going to lose. There was always those seeds that it would make sense for him to lose that title. There was ways they could have gone about it. And that's Michael Oku's whole shtick. He makes you think that he's going to get beat, but still comes back and wins. So I love the match, but actually I think to fully assess it as a match rather than a moment for me is going to be one of those things that when I watch it back, there's probably a lot that I've missed that I'll pick up on because that whole time I was just running on like adrenaline and just as much as I could cheering, booing, and yeah.
I completely agree with everything you said. Like Michael Oku has this. I remember his promo, Free Couple Box last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were there, but it was the match. He had I can't remember who faced. It might have been Shiggy, but he stood there and he said, "This is my home. You are my people. I'm going to bring that belt to you." And we were at the front row, me, Tom, Chris, and the others. We were crying. Like, RevPro fans have always believed in Michael Oku.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a testament to Michael Oku that he hasn't abandoned any way of going about to get fans. He's just Michael Oku on a bigger stage.
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty of the MJF thing is, because I was looking at some MJF tweets stuff out, and I was reading the comments. So I was interested to see how American fans and his fans viewed it. There was a lot of Oku who rubbish,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of MJF's going to win. MJF's going to win. Then I was thinking about it. I was like, it was a perfect place to do it because it's not the copper box. I think doing it at the copper box would be a mistake because there's too many traveling fans.
Yeah.
You're doing it in Oku's backyard. You're doing it in a British crowd that love Michael Oku, who believe in Michael Oku. We don't care if we know he's losing. We believe. And that was a perfect place to do that because then, again, the wider wrestling bubble, everyone outside of that probably went, yeah, of course he's losing. No. He's put the wrong belt on the line, for one. He hasn't put his belt on. He's definitely losing. But as RevPro fans, as Michael Oku apologists, we believe in Michael Oku. And I now think, I text you, I think that may have been a test.
Mm-hmm.
The one final test to say, this guy is it. And he passed flying colours. He was on, and MJF is one of the best in the world. But you wouldn't have thought that it wasn't a Wembley caliber match. You wouldn't have looked at those two toe to toe and gone, oh, we're there. It's this guy versus MJF. It's Michael Oku versus MJF. You're two guys on par with each other. And that's a massive testament to how good Oku has become.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because, again, the Ospreay thing where Tony Khan was watching, there are some people that will say, that's Ospreay. Ospreay did all that. Ospreay put Oku on the map. It takes two to tango. Oku is incredible at what he does. And I'm so happy for him. And I do have a question. Do you think he was waving goodbye at the end?
I do. From where I was standing, like I think sometimes when you're watching on TV, right, the camera will position itself how it wants you to perceive everything. But actually, when you're standing and watching it unfold, sometimes it looks a bit different, and it looked like they were literally trying to soak in, like it had last day at school vibes, right, where you're trying to take in, or you're leaving, like the family home's being sold off, you've lived there for 30 years, this is your last chance to remember everything before you go. That's what it felt like. I think this is it for him now. I genuinely do. And just to kind of touch on and like kind of build up a little bit of the backstory to this as to why I think we get there. So on the interview that Michael did with Stephanie Chase, they talk about how this came about. So he actually referenced 1865 and talked about what a great venue it is. Go on, Michael. But he was like, I was supposed to be wrestling in Southampton, and then I got told it was being moved. And then he said that Andy Quilden called him up and said, I need to speak with you now. And he was like, what have I done here? So at this point, when Andy told him, it wasn't fully confirmed, apparently. Like, when they say it wasn't fully confirmed, he thought it was going to come about. But the bit that Michael Oku mentioned, which I found really interesting, was apparently it was MJF that organised all of this with Andy. So I thought this was
that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I was expecting Tony Khan was arranging all of this as a way to build into his story, but no. Apparently, MJF was in contact with Andy, telling him he wanted this. He wanted the match with Michael Oku. He wanted to come to RevPro, which even then, right? So if you've got Tony Khan is watching, you've got that match, which I'm much like you, it takes two to tango, right? You cannot have a match that good with one guy carrying the other guy, right? I firmly believe that when it comes to a carry job, there are levels, right? And yes, there was the old ones in back in the day where Bret Hart could carry someone to a really good match, but
Bret Hart.
Not to a 40-minute epic, right? And that's the difference. Like, that is a 10, 15-minute TV match. Like, John Moxley, Will Ospreay, they could make Naito, who's out on his feet, hit his finisher without him doing anything. Like, these guys can do great things, but you can't do that good without your opponent being good. And that first Michael Oku match in Southampton, I've staked my claim. That is the match that made me, like, fully cemented me being a RevPro fan. It fully changed my mind on what British wrestling actually is, because I was there in 2005, 2006 when you had the American imports, but by and large, no disrespect, they were on another level and not a good level. The British, like, it was not good. And in my mind, that is where the British talent has been wrongly, but that's where my perception was for such a long time. And obviously I saw Pac in Southampton, but even then, it was like, okay, this is looking better. That match, that first match between those two, really cemented it for me. So seeing how Michael Oku has gone since then, how he's grown, he's developed. Amira as well, exactly the same. Like, when she first came out with him, I was like, oh, okay. And then the next time I was like, she doesn't really add anything to him. Like, I was like, okay.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
then, like, that was the first couple of times. And then I think they were finding their rhythm a bit more. Now, I do not see them as separate acts. They are one act, right?
Yeah,
and it is integral to what he does. And I think it's all the stuff that she brings, the willingness to go through tables, the willingness to take a hidden blade, the facial reactions. Like, for someone who's so good at speaking, she doesn't need to say a word for you to know, like, what is going through. And so that's kind of like, with all of that kind of building up to it, then MJF requested this match. Like you, I think it was a bit of a test. I think you've had the Tony Khan is interested. MJF's gone, I want to work this guy. I want to see what he's all about. And I think that's like I've said all along, when me and Dave did the what if episode, like, what if Michael Oku like, we had to say at the beginning, we don't actually think that he's going to last in RevPro the year. Like, that was just a thing. I said next year he'd be off to AEW, right? That was at 2025, he'd be signed by AEW. I think this moves the timeline up, and I think what we saw there was Michael Oku's last York call, because other people said, well, he's got to have a goodbye show, and he will, right? Michael Oku will have a goodbye show because he's earned it. I think they'll do it at Crystal Palace. I think that's what Uprising will be. I think Uprising will be Michael Oku's last show, in the same way that they kind of did it with Will Ospreay. They kind of bigged it up. I think we're at August now. Give him a couple of months to get RevPro out of his system. I knew Will going would be a big deal. This will be bigger. Like, Michael Oku is so integral to RevPro. Like, and JJ Gale is the heart and soul, but truly, that's Michael Oku for me. Like
He's
him in
one
the
of our
mirror
own.
embody. Yeah, exactly. Like, and it is that like real community feel. Like, and I've said this, like we know there are wrestling fans who think they're mates with these wrestlers, right? And it's not that, but we do have a level of familiarity with them that while we know our place, we are the fan side of things. That's what we are. We are fans. We are not their friends. We don't know them personally. But there is that level of familiarity that we've built up with them over the years that it does have that community feel when we go to Southampton and you see them there as, yeah, that is Michael Oku, one of the best wrestlers in the world, but he's also really approachable in the same way that Ospreay was as well. I just think when he does go, that's gonna be hard, but I think that's his last York Hall.
I think with Oku, and the difference between Ospreay and Oku for me is Ospreay wasn't. I mean, he was Mr. RevPro, but he was everywhere, like frontline, progress. Like he did all of these things. Whereas we've seen Oku grow, and he is homegrown, in my opinion, by RevPro. So I feel
100%.
like he's one of ours. Like Southampton, it's become the thing. He's one of our own, and that is a very Southampton thing because that's something Saints fans sing, and there's a very specific chant. Francisco also gets it.
Yeah.
But he's one of our own. And as far as in the context of a wrestling show, we'd run for a wall for Michael Oku.
Yeah.
Like he is our boy. Like, and the whole thing about the familiarity and the friendship is like he'll banter with us in the queue.
Yeah.
Like Jack, for instance. Like we said last week, Jack's disabled. So he in the queue, he'll sit down and have a little chair. Every time Michael Oku sees Jack, calls him lazy. Right. And that means the world to Jack. And
Yeah.
for him to have that, to him to, despite the fact he's got everything on his plate and he has he probably sees thousands of people every week. For him to remember certain venues and have chats, have certain inside jokes with certain people, he doesn't have to do that. Like he's Michael Oku now. Like he is a megastar. But you know for a fact, in 5 years' time, when he makes his one-off or two-off return to RevPro and he comes to 1865, he'll still chat to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to touch on what you said about Mira, I remember talking to someone, it's probably Dave. I always ask, where is Mira? Why aren't they coming out together? And then all of a sudden it happened. It just worked.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is with Amira is he took that bump in Copper Box last year. That incredible table spot that I assumed was for Levi. When she went through the table, I was at the top. There's a sable section with Jack. There's like what the tier above, like the balcony bit around the Copper Box.
I was in the same.
Oh, were you? So we were there. I nearly fell over. I nearly fell over the thing when Amira went through the table.
Because she just disappeared and you just didn't see anything, did you? It was like...
Yeah. And then the hidden blade she took, I would have bet you £1,000 she was taking that Tiger Driver. Because you've been conditioned by Amira that she'll take that bump.
Yeah.
So when I was like, oh, she's taking that. Like, God rest your soul, Amira. So when Ospreay did come out, when he did, it was a nice pop because everyone was like, "Oh, she's taking that bump. It's Amira. She's crazy."
Yeah.
So when he made the save, it was really nice. And I think they definitely, the tears were genuine. They might try and play it off as he failed. He failed his dream.
I've already seen that on social media. Yeah, we failed, and
it was. This is my last York Hall. This is my last York Hall as Mr. RevPro.
Yeah, absolutely agree there. But yeah, wonderful match.
Yeah, incredible match. It was one of the best of the year, and that's what the third Michael Oku match has been one of the best of the year.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously Dave and I, our first episode we did of this podcast we did it in June or July, I think it was. So we said the first 6 months, and we legit said what is going to be the best match of the second half of the year. right? And there's been some great matches. But no way did we expect a marquee match on that level of that, and a match that can certainly be up there and rival that match. Like, and what's the common denominator there as well? Michael Oku. Like,
Okay.
I think the difference as well for me between Oku and Osprey, and point kind of finish my part on this with Osprey has always been seen as a bit of a prodigy, right?
Yeah.
Michael Oku hasn't, and that's not in a disrespectful way. It's just
He said that
he's
himself.
yeah, he's just got better and better and better. You've got the footballers like you've got you Cristiano Ronaldo, who everyone expected to just go off there and do it, and then you've got the ones who just kind of come through that you don't necessarily expect, work and work and work. That's Michael Oku, and he's getting his rewards from it.
And he deserves everything.
Yeah.
If there was a person out there that I wish would get every contract he ever wanted, it's Michael Oku.
Yeah, I've said the same
That's
thing.
the effect he has on wrestling fans. He's so endearing.
I both want him to go and I don't want him to go. Like, if you said to me, Will Ospreay is going to go to AEW, and Michael Oku will stay in RevPro, forever, or the other way around, I mean this genuinely. I would send Ospreay off every single time, like from what I want. And yeah, it's just I don't know what RevPro is going to be like without Michael Oku.
For him to Osprey obviously loves Michael Oku, but MJF to request Michael Oku, and that one PWG appearance, he won over Chris Jericho.
Yeah,
I am fully a believer in Jericho has been in Tony Khan's ear. Watch out for Michael Oku. He's incredible.
Yeah.
And ever since then, Osprey's gone over, and I would again put money on. Well, there's a few people I think you should keep an eye on. One of them being top of the list, Michael Oku.
Absolutely.
So then MGF, who obviously listens to the senior wrestlers, has gone, fuck it, let's see what this boy's about. And every single test Michael Oku has had, he's passed.
Yeah.
PWG, CMLL. He's come away from everything with people going, this Oku kid's pretty good. Like, I'm so proud of him. I know I don't know the guy, but I am older than him. I do see him as like one of our own.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of the boy. He's so good.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because I was thinking the same thing earlier. Like, when you say I'm proud of them, like, you don't know them, right? So to say you're proud, but there is no other better way. Where like, I think it's just that it does feel like one of ours done good, and yeah, nice. You know what? That feels like a good place to leave the Summer Sizzler chat. Nice note there. One of the things we were going to do tonight was we were going to discuss the Southampton card that was going to drop. But of course that hasn't happened. And obviously, as we've been speaking, we've kind of been speculating a little bit on what we think could come up. But I did shout out earlier and ask some questions. And we've had some questions come through. So maybe what we can do, rather than talking about Southampton and speculate too much on that, let's just go with some questions. We'll do some quick fire questions here. So the first one is from one of the 1865 regulars, Hayden. First of all, he made the comment saying that he could see Dion Perazzo being Dani Luna's opponent. Quick fire, what are your thoughts?
That would be good. That would be really good. But I can't see her taking a loss.
Yeah.
I can't see her coming to Rev. I could be wrong on that, but I can't see her coming into RevPro on a one shot and taking a loss, especially if she's not on the Wembley card.
I think if it's a big name AW, it needs to be someone that can take a surprise lot or an interference loss, which is why I said Willow taking a loss via Statlander, or Statlander taking a loss via Willow, even in the score. I just prefer the first option. Yeah.
Statlander versus Dani Luna.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be tasty.
Yeah.
Suplexes and throws all over the show.
Yeah, and the other one is Shida. I think you could bring Shida in, and Shida could lose, and still she wouldn't lose anything from that. And also, Hayden wants to know, Spike, what's your favorite TV show at the moment?
Just binge Umbrella Academy, and it was incredible.
Wonderful.
I watched it in one day.
still need to catch up on the previous season. Going on with the 1865 theme, Tom.
Of course.
So, Tom, we've mentioned on the pod before, loves to ask really random questions and that requires a lot of thinking. So, I do like this one. Can Southampton ever host one of RevPro's big pay-per-view nights, or does the city not have enough venues that would meet a wrestling show's criteria, excluding the 1865 for obvious reasons? Now, let me take that first, because my first ever RevPro show was at the Guildhall, Southampton Guildhall. And it was great. It was full in there, right? Absolutely full, great venue. But if you go back and listen to one of the episodes of the A Squared Circle podcast, Andy talks about just how terrible the venue management was. Like, he refuses to go there. And one of the reasons that the footage has never come out of that on RevPro On Demand is because right at the end, the venue said, if you want to release your footage, you need to pay $2,000. Like, they were charging $2,000 to actually release the footage of it, which is really annoying because, one, it's my first ever show I went to, so I'd like to be able to watch it back. 2, it had Bret the Hitman Hart on it. And 3, it had the first time I ever saw Will Ospreay versus Ricochet. So it was a great night. What I remember from that, and look, that was 2015. Times do change. I remember it was a very casual crowd. And I know that's what they were aiming for. That's specifically what Andy says he's aiming for. Casuals. People will go there because of the WWE names. And I know that I took a bit of exception with that because I was like, I wasn't there for that. And I was like, actually, you bought the ticket because Bret Hart and John Morrison got announced. Like, shut up. You were the casual in this one. I don't know if there is the crowd there to build for an uprising or something like that. But I don't see why you couldn't have a Raw deal there. Like, one of the B-level, family-friendly, bring a J-Cup. Like, a J-Cup feels perfect for Southampton because how do you win people over? Put luchadors in front of them that no one's ever seen before and just watch them get involved. So, but I don't know Southampton well enough to know where that venue is other than the Guildhall.
Well, so it's a shame that because I've seen 4 or 5, not RevPro, but I've seen a few wrestling shows at Guildhall. And one of them was WOS. Ospreay was on that part. Which, as a little tangent, that was such a weird one because it was when Ospreay was doing really well in NJPW.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't really know who he was, and it really confused me because I was an Ospreay mark. I still am an Ospreay mark, and he comes out like second match, and everyone's just like, "Oh, this guy looks cool."
Yeah.
But anyway, that's always bugged me. But it was full. Like, the whole show was full.
Yeah.
I've seen another show there. Gangrel was on it. We're going back to like 2003 probably.
Yeah.
There's a Gangrel was there. That was full. It was always full. It always sells. But as far as other venues, Central Hall, I've seen Mega Slam there. It sold out, and there was a lot of people. And it's a really nice little venue. So and you can't, if you look at the wider picture, you can't question the parking or anything because 1865's parking is shocking.
Yeah.
But it's a really nice little venue, and I think there is. I don't know why people don't tap into it more, but Southampton has a really nice wrestling crowd. It has I think it has enough pull to do a wrestling show in Southampton because it's a sporting town.
Yeah.
I've been to enough shows at the Guildhall or Central Hall; they can fill them. So I think they can do it. I think J-Cup is a very good shout.
Yeah. The one thing that I wouldn't want to happen is because I like the 1865 so much as a venue. Like, it's my favorite venue for any show I'll go to now. Like, it's just everything about it, like the community feel, the size of it, just everything about it is great. I wouldn't want bigger events come in, which means that the amount of Southampton shows goes down. Like, they go, right, well, we're going to do bigger Southampton shows, so let's try and do Portsmouth Guildhall as our replacement for like that. Like, and that's a bad example because dead. Like, we've had this conversation, but if you give me the choice of some bigger events with some bigger names on them in Southampton, or the 1865, and then just do what they did this year, right? if you can time the Revolution Rumble the day before the Southampton each time, and then you just do that Super Show in Southampton, that gives you your pool. Revolution Rumble around Easter Sunday or around Easter Monday, I should say. Have that on the Sunday. Have Southampton on the Monday. Bring them down. Do double duty. You've got a great opportunity there.
I mean, everything I just said about the other two venues, I would give that away in a heartbeat for more 1865. 1865, I'm very biased. It's my favourite wrestling venue. It is everything about the 1865 is perfect. It's a seedy little nightclub which shouldn't work. It's got disgusting sticky carpet. The bar is in the wrong place. Like it's just everything a wrestling venue should be. If you were going to create a seedy wrestling venue on 2K, WWE 2K, you'd probably create 1865. It's amazing. I love it. And I would love there to be bigger stuff there. But I think you are right. And I think that is generally what is happening, is the shows are being timed around, because they've now proven that they've done it a couple of times. We'll turn up for the show. We'll be your rowdy go-home crowd.
Yeah.
And I've not done many other shows, but I think we have the best crowd. I think we also have the most unhinged crowd and the most rogue crowd.
Yeah.
Like, and you can hear it on commentary. Like, the amount of times one of them has said, like, "Oh, they've gone again."
Yeah. I don't hear many crowds doing Robbie fucking X, but Southampton definitely do that one.
I assumed it was a thing.
So did I.
So I went to commentary, and we were going, let's start a Robbie X chant. I started chanting Robbie fucking X. The looks I got.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a few that are Southampton only. Like a lot of the Francisco chants.
Yeah.
That is, I could be completely wrong, but Dani doesn't die. That feels like a Southampton thing. I feel like they took that with him, but I feel like that was a Southampton thing.
I couldn't tell you on that one. I feel like I've heard that one elsewhere recently, but that might have even been at Chaos I went to when that was. But I feel like I've done that one somewhere else.
I feel like it started in Southampton though.
Quite possibly, yeah. It does feel very Southampton, but I didn't realise that wasn't a Southampton one, the Robbie X one, until I was chatting with the wife about it, and she was like, "No," because she doesn't come to all the shows, so she can watch them on TV and shit. No, that is definitely a Southampton one. I'm like, oh, okay. I hate the other ones. They do Robbie X, the Baby Shark theme tune like that. That's a Dave the Mark chant, all right, and that's just that's terrible. That one, like, give us Robbie fucking X each time. Good question from Tom, and then the last question we've got, mate, is from Catherine. Big supporter of the show. If you ever go to any of the wider shows, Catherine will usually be walking around. Like she does like a lot of 3D print and stuff. Like she's made wrestler logo key rings and earrings. So like
I've heard about Catherine.
Like there's a few different ones that I've met from going to like the London shows. All have like their own little crafts. Like there's this guy at the 229 who makes RevPro trading cards, and I think he gets them signed. Like these London crowds, they do their own thing. She has asked, and this is probably a great one to end it on. Would be curious to get our take on the Luke Jacobs involvement in the MJF match and what that might mean for the Copper Box and the upcoming AEW shows. So I think you and I were both on the same page about this, because I originally thought when Ospreay had the title, it was Ospreay versus Oku on the collision tables. Convinced. And then as everything's kind of started going on, I was thinking, are we going to get MJF and Jacobs against Ospreay and Oku? And then obviously we saw Jacobs come out, and I thought we were going to get Ospreay at that point to level it up, and that's how you then build to that match. Then obviously Jacobs just smashes MJF. Where do you see that going?
I think you called it quite well. I won't spoil it, but you had an idea. But I do wonder, he has to face MJF now, or they have to lock eyes or something, because it was such a Luke Jacobs spot. After it happened, I fully expected what literally what you just said. Clock out Michael Oku, Ospreay comes out, they brawl, blah blah blah. Cardiff tag match. And then when he wipes out MJF, I was like, of course he was going to wipe out both of them. Like, that's the Luke Jacobs thing. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
He doesn't care who wins this match, as long as Luke Jacobs looks good coming out of it.
Exactly.
Character-wise, anyway. But it's a tough one. He should be on an AEW show, whether it's Dynamite Collision to do MJF Jacobs at Collision. Would it affect Copperbox because it's technically a separate universe? He could lose, but you could argue that Oku losing to MJF was in a bubble. It doesn't affect Copperbox.
Yeah.
But I would like to see Jacobs, or would I, or do I want to see it in 6 months? And every now and then we do something.
Yeah, I definitely think that we've got MJF versus Jacobs at Cardiff. Right, it has to be, like, with how recent it is, it has to be in Cardiff. Like, if it isn't, it isn't. I'd be very surprised if it's not. I think that they do that, and they give Jacobs the star making performance there. Like, they give him the rub, because I think Jacobs. Yeah, I think Jacobs also is one of the names that goes into the gauntlet. I think Michael Oku's in the gauntlet. I think Luke Jacobs ends up in the gauntlet, because I've said, like, my thoughts when it came to the who's going to win at the Copper Box has always been Luke Jacobs, right? I've listened to enough of Andy Quid on the podcast lately to say that when you've got the opportunity to put your title front and center on the big stage, you kind of have to take that. Jacobs feels like he's the man who can be up next, right? He has to have his. It's, for me, it's like kind of now or never almost. Like, do it, take the opportunity. And at the end of his match, Jacobs cut a promo saying that RevPro is the company that's his number one priority, which very funny given that he won the Progress title. And it feels he strikes me as one of those guys that even as a character promo wouldn't say that if he didn't truly believe that. Like, it doesn't seem like it's something that he would say for a bit. And that could just be me buying into it, but does he end up on AEW and that's how you get that title on screen? Like, you still get your RevPro title on shown on Collision. If he comes into the gauntlet, he can wear that coming down, and that doesn't mean you have to put the title, take the title, keep the title on Michael Oku. So I don't know, but I do think that we get him versus MJF at Cardiff. I think we get an involvement at Wembley, and I still think Luke Jacobs ends Copperbox as champion.
Yeah, I am 100% believing he's winning the title. Like, after that, especially after the ending, and the whole hit MJF, that does fit with his promo. Like, you've come into a pro, you've disrespected us.
Yeah,
I'm going to clock you with your own title, which does then lead into, I know he is a heel. You go into Cardiff as defending Rev Pro.
Yeah,
there's a way around it, but maybe because Luke Jacobs versus MJF is an Oku MJF level marquee match. Do you give Andy's next big thing to AEW? Or do you do a tag match, whether it's Young Guns versus MJF and someone?
Sorry to cut you off there. I don't think we get MJF back. I think Andy's had his shot with MJF. I don't think you then get the chance to have that. I think, for me, the only way you have that match now is in AEW. And I think that's the way you do it. You've obviously benefited RevPro by having MJF come in, but there has to be something for MJF. Like MJF wanted that, right? So yes, you've got all the benefit in the world there for RevPro having that, but now it feels like you've done the bit that benefits RevPro by having MJF come in. Now is the time to benefit RevPro by having something on screen with AEW.
Yeah, no, you are right. Actually, I do agree. And it would be sick. It'd be so good to see Luke Jacobs on. And I also think your shout about having him come down into the gauntlet, that's a really good way to cancel out Michael Oku and not worry about him having to take a pin or them looking weak.
Yeah.
Because imagine Oku's in second, say, or he's in first, and he's battering everyone, and it's all good, and then he's looking quite the thing. But we all know that he's a bit distraught about losing the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Jacobs' music played. He stood there in the belt. Oku snaps. They cancel each other out, X, Y, Z. Then you don't have to pin either guy. Both look really strong. So there is a really good way you could do the gauntlet with both of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you put Oku and AEW as well on the Cardiff show, or do you leave that for Wembley?
I think he ends up on the card in some way. I'm just not sure what. I could see him, Will Ospreay, just in a tag match. It was Will Ospreay and Michael Oku versus Private Party, something like that. Just a good tag match sorts it out. I think you're gonna have your couple of matches that are gonna really filter into like building storylines for new matches at Wembley, like Okada and Claudio look to be going that route potentially. I don't think you have to have anything major with Will. I think just have his British buddies around. Like we're gonna build this up as this is the British show, really, aren't we? So even as Wales, not England, they're gonna build it up as Britain, RevPro, all of that stuff. Yeah, so I see Oku on the card. I just don't know what exactly.
You reckon it's going to be like like Wembley last year was? A lot of it was fan service.
Yeah.
You think the way they've gone around it this year is Cardiff will be the fan service show.
I do.
Wembley will be an AEW show.
Yeah, I think there's going to be more fan service at Cardiff, but I hope it's not too much fan service because
you've got 3 shows, so you can spread it out.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's like don't just go. This is a complete fan service show, right? Because I've seen those kind of shows before WWE, and they're as great as they can be. Like for certain moments, it's like you don't want too much of it. Like it has to matter alongside what you're doing because if everything is what you already see, nothing gets elevated. Whereas if MJF is around Oku and Jacobs, they get elevated at the same time. So that's kind of why I like it. But I think it's looking on track to being a great pay-per-view. Like everything looks like it's gonna be fantastic. Oku and Jacobs there would just be great. And kind of my final thoughts on the matter really is if Grado is one of those names being seriously considered, right? Luke Jacobs has to be on there because Michael Oku said it himself earlier today, and he had to correct himself and say, "Actually, I'll say myself first." But every time you hear Michael Oku speak, all he says is Luke Jacobs is the best professional wrestler in this country right now, and it's hard to disagree with him.
He is so good, but I think Dave said it a few times. He's just a different animal now, and it's so. I know we're in a niche within a niche within a niche, but seeing all these guys come through at roughly the same time and click right at the same time, it's once in a lifetime sort of thing as far as wrestling goes. You've had Oku and Jacobs both hit their stride at the same time, and you could only announce Oku versus Jacobs at the Copper Box, and I reckon you get 2,000, 3,000 people in the building.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are on the tear of their life right now, and the fact that he's also a Progress champion is a testament to the guy. Like he's trusted in multiple promotions. He's never put on a bad match, and I said it last week. The Ishii match is my favorite match I've seen live, as far as wrestling goes. And again, really proud of the guy. I think him and Oku are two guys that deserve everything they're getting and more. And like, if Oku's going to get an AEW rub, Jacob deserves an AEW rub.
Look, what I said yesterday was you can take Will Ospreay from us, and it looks like you can take Michael Oku. Give me a 1-year amnesty on just leaving behind Luke Jacobs and Alex Windsor for a year, all right? Because they are both up next. So leave them for a year if you're going to take Michael Oku.
How cool would it be if 3 years running we had that run of someone going to AEW from RevPro and it being a massive deal?
Yeah, it would be great because it would feel then not necessarily like a feeder system, but it feels like a route. And that was one of the things Michael Oku was speaking about in this interview today was they don't really have that route. And imagine if you had that. And who goes after Luke Jacobs? Well, Zozaya. Like, that's who goes after that. Yeah. Yeah. So, Goldenboy Santos. But no, it's really cool to think about. And it just shows what a great place we're in with RevPro.
What a great time for wrestling as well.
Absolutely. And speaking of time, my friend, I think that just about does it because I was wondering like how long we're going. I think we've probably hit longer than Dave and I normally do, and that's quite the thing there because Dave and I like to chat. So Spike, the people can see where they can follow me. Do you have anything you want to plug at this point? Any social medias?
So on Instagram, I'm at Spike Likes Wrestling. There's nothing on it at the moment because I'm a bit rubbish. I'm actually, at the moment, as George knows, consulting Dave a lot. There's what to post. Still haven't figured it out. And on Twitter, I can't really remember exactly how it looks, but it's at Stevie Baby.
Yes,
Baby as an Adam Cole.
There might be like an underscore in there, but you know what? If you type in those words, you will get there. Go and give him a follow now. There might be nothing in there. You might be doing this consultation, but we are a bunch of middle-aged men trying to get technology sorted. Spike, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, mate. And
I've had a lot of fun.
See you Sunday. The next part, the go home show for the Copper Box at the 1865. I'll catch you later, mate.
We might have a card by then, so that'll be nice.
Catch you later, buddy. Take care.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much.
Bye.
See you later.